So, what's the craziest thing you've ever bet on? My ladies. Me. I once put $10 on a one-legged pigeon outrunning a rat in Times Square. Spoiler, I'm still broke. Chuckles. Hey, it's your old pal John Doe. 58 creaky knees and all, spinning yarns from the heart of New York. You gals, my silver-haired crew. No life's a wild ride, love, loss, and a few choice curse words when the coffee's cold. Right winks. Tonight. I've got a tale that'll make your heart skip about a kid with duct-taped shoes who turned a city upside down. Grab your wine, settle in, and let's get cozy. If this hits you in the feels, drop a comment, share it with your book club, and hit that subscribe button. Keep this old man spinning stories for you. The sun's just high enough to warm Overton Park, casting long shadows from the old oak trees that line the cracked asphalt paths. It's a Sunday morning in Memphis, Tennessee, 2025, and the air's thick with the smell of fresh-cut grass, diesel from a food truck slinging BBQ ribs, and a faint whiff of cigarette smoke from the basketball court where kids are shouting over a pickup game. Somewhere down Beale Street, a blues guitar wails, the notes drifting like ghosts through the park. Under one of those oaks, a small crowd, maybe 20 folks, has gathered around a faded yoga mat spread out on the dirt. They're not loud, not cheering yet, just watching. Their breaths held like they're waiting for a miracle. At the center of the mat kneels a boy, no more than 9 years old, his knees scuffing the grass. Ezekiel Carter Zeke, to anyone who asks, is small for his age, his oversized jacket frayed at the cuffs, one sleeve rolled up to keep it out of his way, his left sneakers held together with silver duct tape, the kind you'd find in a hardware store, catching the light as he moves. A beat-up notebook, pages curling at the edges, sits tucked under his arm, and a gym bag with a busted zipper lies open at his feet, spilling out a tennis ball, a jar of cocoa butter, and a plastic container of warm rice wrapped in a dish towel, his red beanies pulled low, barely covering his ears, and his eyes dark, steady, way older than they should be, are locked on the girl in front of him. Isla Reeves is 6, her brown curls tied back with a blue scrunchie, a few strands sticking to her forehead in the morning heat. She's in a wheelchair, her legs tucked under a thin pink blanket, too still, the way they've been since a car accident flipped her world upside down a year ago. Her hands grip the armrests, knuckles pale, but her eyes are bright, fixed on Zeke, like he's the only thing keeping her steady. Behind her stands her dad, Jonathan Reeves, 48, his tailored jacket out of place among the park's casual crowd. His arms are crossed tight, a Rolex glinting on his wrist, but his face tells a different story, gray at the temples, bags under his eyes, a man who's been running on coffee and guilt for too long. He's a real estate hotshot, the kind who closes million-dollar deals. But right now, he's just a dad watching his kid like she might break. Clara Thompson, a nurse from St. Jude Children's Hospital, stands off to the side, her scrubs wrinkled from a double shift, a thermos of coffee clutched in her hand. She's 32, with a no-nonsense braid and eyes that have seen too much to believe in fairy tales. But she's here, watching Zeke like she's waiting for him to prove her wrong. The crowd's a mix, parents with tired faces, a couple of kids on crutches, an old man leaning on a cane, even a teenager snapping pics with his phone. They're all here because word's been spreading about the kid with the duct-taped shoes who's been helping folks at the park. Nobody knows how, exactly, but they're about to find out. Zeke adjusts the rice pack on Isla's thighs, the warmth seeping through her blanket. His hands are steady, deliberate, like he's done this 100 times. "All right, Isla," he says, his voice soft but clear, with a Memphis drawl that rolls like the river. "We're gonna try standing today. You cool with that?" Isla bites her lip, her eyes flicking to her dad. "What if I fall?" Her voice is small, barely above a whisper, but it cuts through the park's hum. "You won't," Zeke says, not missing a beat. "Me and your pops got you. Right, Mr. Reeves." Jonathan shifts his weight, his jaw tight. "Damn well better. Kid," he mutters. "Don't screw this up." Clara shoots him a look, her lips pursed. "Ease up, John. He knows what he's doing." "Does he?" Jonathan snaps, his voice low so Isla can't hear. "He's a kid, Clara. A damn street kid." Clara doesn't blink. "Give him a chance. You'll see." Zeke ignores the back and forth, his focus on Isla. He slides a worn leather belt under her knees, showing Jonathan how to hold the ends. "On 3, we lift," he says, his tone calm, like he's talking about tying a shoe. "You just think about standing, Isla. Don't worry about nothing else." "Ready?" Isla nods, her breath shaky. Jonathan steps closer, his hands hovering under her arms, his face a mask of doubt and hope. The crowd leans in, the air heavy with anticipation. A kid on the basketball court yells, "Yo!" What's happening, but nobody answers. All eyes are on the mat. Zeke counts slow, his voice steady. 1, 2, 3. Jonathan pulls gently, his hands trembling just enough to notice. Zeke steadies Isla's legs, his fingers pressing lightly on her knees, and then she rises. Isla's arms shake, her breath catches, but she's up standing on her own for the first time since the accident. 3 seconds, maybe 4, her body swaying like a sapling in the wind. The crowd gasps, a collective intake of breath, and then she buckles, falling into Jonathan's arms. He catches her, his knees hitting the ground, holding her tight like she might vanish. The park explodes. A mom in the back claps a hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. An older kid on crutches pumps his fist, yelling, "Hell yeah!" A woman in a church hat starts clapping, slow at first, then faster, until half the crowd's joining in. Clara's smiling, her thermos forgotten, her eyes glassy with something she won't name. Isla's voice cuts through the noise, small but fierce. "I did it. Zeke." I stood. Jonathan's frozen, his arms wrapped around her, his face a mix of shock and something softer, something he hasn't felt in months. "Holy shit," he whispers, his voice cracking. "You're standing, baby. You're standing." Zeke grins, wiping sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. "Told you, man," he says, glancing at Jonathan. "She's tough as hell." The crowd's buzzing now, people whispering, pointing at Zeke like he's some kind of prophet in a beanie. A teenager with a phone mutters, "This is going viral. Yo." But Zeke just kneels back down, adjusting Isla's blanket like it's no big deal. He checks the rice pack, making sure it's still warm, his hands moving with a quiet confidence that doesn't match his duct-taped shoes. Clara steps closer, her voice low. You're something else. Zeke Carter. He shrugs, tucking his notebook into his bag. Just doing what Mom taught me. Jonathan sets Isla back in her chair, his hands still trembling. He looks at Zeke, really looks at him for the first time, the raggedy jacket, the taped-up sneaker, the eyes that don't waver. Who the hell are you? Kid, he asks, half to himself. 2 months ago, outside St. Jude's. The hospital's revolving doors churn out a steady stream of people, the air sharp with winter cold, the kind that makes your fingertips sting. Zeke's perched on a cardboard box near the entrance, his knees pulled up, sketching in his notebook, his beanies low, his jacket zipped tight against the wind. He's there most days, watching folks come and go, not begging, not hustling, just there. Nobody asks why. Nobody asks much of anything in a place like this. Jonathan walks by, carrying Isla, his face set in a scowl after another dead-end appointment with Dr. Elena Torres, the hospital's top physical therapist. Her words long road ahead. Manage expectations are still ringing in his ears. He's halfway to his SUV when Zeke stands, his voice cutting through the hospital's hum. Yo, mister, I can help your girl walk again. Jonathan stops dead, his jaw tightening. He turns, eyeing the kid like he's a street hustler. The hell you talking about? You pulling some scam? Zeke doesn't flinch, his hands stuffed in his pockets. No scam. I know stuff. Let me try. Jonathan's laugh is sharp, bitter. You're what? 10-9, Zeke says, his voice steady. I helped my mom with patience. I can help her. Jonathan's ready to walk away. But Isla's eyes lock on Zeke, curious, a spark he hasn't seen in months. Daddy, she says, her voice soft. He looks nice. He looks down at her, his throat tight. Clara steps out of the hospital, catching the tail end of the exchange. He's not a con. John, she says, her thermos steaming in the cold. His mom, Monique, was a physical therapist, worked with folks who couldn't pay. This kid's got her heart. Jonathan glares at Zeke, then back at Clara. You're telling me he's playing doctor? You serious? I'm serious, Clara says. Give him a shot. Jonathan hesitates, his eyes flicking to Isla. Her face is brighter than it's been all week. This is nuts, he mutters, then points at Zeke. One chance. Kid, you screw up. I'm done. Overton Park, Saturday, noon. Don't be late. Zeke nods, his face unreadable. I'll be there. Back in the park, the crowd's thinning out, families heading to their cars, still buzzing about what they saw. Jonathan lifts Isla into their SUV, his mind a tangle of questions. He glances back at Zeke, who's sitting on a bench now, staring at the oak tree like it's got secrets. Clara's talking to him, her hand on his shoulder. But he's only half listening, his fingers tracing the edge of his notebook. Jonathan buckles Isla in, then shuts the door. He walks over to Zeke, his shadow falling across the bench. You're at the hospital a lot. Huh, he says, his voice gruff. What's your deal? Zeke looks up, his eyes steady. Just trying to help. Man. Like I said, Jonathan scoffs. But it's softer now. Less edge. Yeah. Well, you did something today. Don't know what. But something. He hesitates. Then pulls out a 20 from his wallet. Take it. Zeke shakes his head, his voice firm. Keep your money. Buy Isla some ice cream or something. Jonathan stares, then shoves the bill back in his pocket. You're a weird kid. You know that Zeke smiles, small and real, the kind that makes you wonder what he's seen. Been called worse. Jonathan lingers a moment, then turns back to the car. Isla's voice pipes up from the back seat as he climbs in. Daddy, he's nice. Can we come back next week? He glances at her in the rearview mirror, her face glowing, her blanket clutched tight. Yeah, he says, his voice rough, almost breaking. Yeah, we'll come back. Zeke watches the SUV pull away, its taillights fading into the Memphis haze. He pulls out his notebook, flipping to a page with his mom's handwriting scribbled notes about muscles, nerves, and patience, the kind of stuff she used to teach him after school at the community clinic. He runs his thumb over the words, his jaw tight. The park's quiet now, just the rustle of leaves and the distant wail of a blues riff. But something's different. Something started, and Zeke can feel it, like a current under his skin. Hey, folks, a kid with nothing but a notebook and some duct tape just made a little girl stand. Want to know how Zeke pulled it off? Hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment about what got you choked up, and don't miss the next part of this wild ride. The wind off the Mississippi bites hard outside St. Jude Children's Hospital, carrying the kind of cold that creeps into your bones and stays there. It's late afternoon, the sky a flat, heavy gray, and the sidewalks a chaotic churn of footsteps, doctors in crisp white coats, parents clutching styrofoam coffee cups, a janitor sweeping cigarette butts into a pile by the curb. The hospital's glass doors reflect the dim streetlights, spitting out families who move like they're carrying the weight of the world. Horns blare from Poplar Avenue, mixing with the faint wail of an ambulance pulling into the ER bay. Near the hospital entrance, a kid sits cross-legged on a flattened cardboard box, his knees pulled up against the chill. Ezekiel Carter Zeke, 9 years old, has a red beanie tugged low over his ears, his oversized jacket zipped tight, his left sneakers patched with duct tape, silver strips peeling at the edges, and he's sketching in a notebook. The pages yellowed, curling like they've seen too many rainy days. He doesn't look up, doesn't beg, doesn't hustle, just draws, his pencil scratching steady despite the chaos around him. Across the street, a black SUV idles by a fire hydrant, its engine humming low. Jonathan Reeves grips the steering wheel, his tie loose, his phone buzzing with emails he hasn't opened in days. He's 48, a real estate guy who's built half the condos on the Memphis riverfront. But right now, he's just a dad running on fumes. His eyes are bloodshot, his jaw tight from a morning spent arguing with Dr. Elena Torres, St. Jude's top physical therapist, whose latest report on Isla was another variation of long road ahead. Manage expectations. In the back seat, Isla's strapped into her booster seat, her pink blanket pulled tight over her legs. She's 6, her brown curls tucked behind one ear, her eyes fixed on the window, watching the world she used to run through before the accident, before the guilt that's been eating Jonathan alive for a year. He shakes it off, kills the engine, and steps out, scooping Isla into his arms. Her wheelchair's in the trunk, but he carries her, like always, his steps heavy as he heads for the hospital entrance. Zeke's pencil pauses as they pass, his eyes catching the way Jonathan holds Isla like she's fragile, like she might slip away if he loosens his grip. Isla's face is pale, but her eyes are alive, scanning the sidewalk, lingering on Zeke for a second longer than most. He shuts his notebook, stands, and calls out, "Yo, mister, I can help your girl walk again." Jonathan freezes mid-step, his shoulders stiffening. He turns, his jaw clenched, eyeing the kid like he's a hustler working an angle. "The hell you just say?" His voice is low, sharp, the kind that makes people back off. Zeke steps closer, his hands stuffed in his pockets, his voice steady. No trace of a con. "I said I can help her walk. I know stuff." Jonathan's laugh is bitter, cutting through the cold air. "You pulling a scam." "Kid, what are you, 10-9? Zeke corrects, his eyes locked on Jonathan's, unflinching. "And it ain't a scam. I don't want your money." "Then what do you want?" Jonathan snaps, shifting Isla in his arms. Her blanket slips, and he adjusts it, his hands rough but careful. Isla's watching Zeke, her head tilted, a spark of curiosity in her eyes. "Just a chance," Zeke says, his drawl soft but firm, like he's stating a fact. "Let me try. No charge, no bullshit." Jonathan's ready to blow him off, his patience razor-thin after months of dead-end therapies and hospital bills that could buy a house. But Isla's voice stops him, small and clear. "Daddy, he's nice. Can he try?" He looks down at her, her face softer than it's been all week, and something in his chest twists. Before he can answer, Clara Thompson steps out of the hospital, her scrubs rumpled, a thermos of coffee steaming in her hand. She's 32, a nurse with a tight braid and eyes that have seen too many kids like Isla to believe in miracles. She catches the tail end of the exchange and steps closer, her voice firm. "He's not a con. John, I knew his mom, Monique. She was a physical therapist, worked free clinics for folks who couldn't pay, taught this kid a thing or two." Jonathan glances at Zeke, then back at Clara, his skepticism hardening. "You're telling me this street kid's playing doctor? You serious?" "Clara, dead serious," she says, her gaze steady. "He's been hanging around here for months. Doesn't cause trouble. Watches, learns. Let him show you." Zeke holds Jonathan's stare, his hands still in his pockets. "I helped my mom with patients," he says. "Veterans, old folks, kids like her." He nods at Isla, his voice quiet but sure. "I know how to wake muscles up." Jonathan scoffs, but it's weaker now, his eyes flicking to Isla. She's still watching Zeke, her fingers clutching her blanket, a question in her gaze. He shifts her weight, his mind racing. Dr. Torres' words echo no guarantees, no miracles, and he's heard it all before, from specialists, surgeons, machines that cost more than his car. None of it's brought Isla's smile back. So why is he even listening to this kid with a taped-up shoe and a notebook? "This is crazy," he mutters, almost to himself. He glares at Zeke, pointing a finger. "One shot. Kid, you screw this up. I'm calling security. Overton Park, Saturday, noon. Don't be late." Zeke nods, his face unreadable, just a slight tightening of his jaw. "I'll be there." Jonathan turns, carrying Isla inside, the hospital's warm air hitting him like a wall. He's already regretting it, his mind screaming that he's a fool for trusting a kid who looks like he hasn't eaten a real meal in weeks. But Isla's voice, that spark in her eyes, keeps him from turning back. He mutters under his breath, "Damn fool." As the door slides shut behind them, outside, Zeke sinks back onto his cardboard, the cold seeping through his jeans. The wind kicks up, rattling the bare trees along the street. He opens his notebook, flipping to a page with his mom's handwriting scribbled notes about pressure points, stretches, ways to trick a body into remembering what it's forgotten. His finger traces the words, his throat tight. Monique Carter was a healer, the kind who could make a room feel lighter just by walking in. She'd drag Zeke to clinics after school, let him carry her bag, teach him how to press a tennis ball into a muscle to ease the pain. She'd been gone a year now, taken by a sickness the hospital couldn't or wouldn't fix. Zeke doesn't know why he spoke up today, why Isla's eyes hit him like a punch. Maybe it's because she looked like she still believed in something, and he hasn't seen that in a long time. A shadow falls over the cardboard. Marcus M.J. Johnson looms. 15, lanky, his hoodie pulled tight against the cold. He's got a chipped tooth and a chip on his shoulder. The kind of kid who's been dodging trouble since he could walk. He kicks a pebble, his voice sharp. You really out here playing hero? Zeke, talking to some rich dude like you're hot shit. Zeke doesn't look up, his pencil moving again. I ain't playing. MJ, I'm helping. Helping. Marcus snorts, crouching down to eye level. You're a kid with a notebook. Man, that guy's gonna chew you up and spit you out. Or worse, you'll end up in juvie. Zeke shuts the notebook, his voice low, steady. I don't need your crap today. MJ, I got this. Marcus shakes his head. Standing. Your funeral. Little man. Me, I'm making real cash tonight. You should come. Beats sitting here freezing your ass off. Zeke's eyes flick up. Hard. I don't need your kind of cash. Marcus smirks, walking off toward the bus stop, his hands jammed in his pockets, hemmed in. Don't say I didn't warn you. Zeke watches him go, the hospital's neon sign flickering above, casting a red glow on the sidewalk. He pulls his beanie down, his breath visible in the cold. Saturday's 3 days away, and he's got no real plan, just a bag of tricks his mom left behind, and a gut feeling he can't shake. He thinks about Isla, the way her eyes lit up when he spoke, like she saw something in him nobody else does. He's not sure what it is, but it's enough to keep him here, sketching in the dark, across town, in a house on Walnut Grove where the lawns are manicured and the driveways hold Lexuses. Jonathan tucks Isla into bed, her room's a time capsule dance trophies on a shelf, a guitar leaning against the wall, strings dusty from a year of silence. She used to play, plucking out blues riffs she'd heard on Beale Street, but now the guitar's just a reminder of what's gone. Jonathan pulls the blanket up, his hands gentle despite the calluses from years of signing contracts. Isla looks up, her voice small. You think that boy can really help me? Daddy Jonathan forces a smile, brushing her curls back. I don't know. Baby. But he's got guts. I'll give him that. He looked like he meant it, she says, her eyes searching his. Yeah, Jonathan says, his voice rough, catching in his throat. Yeah, he did. He kisses her forehead, shuts the door, and leans against the wall, his chest heavy. He spent a fortune on doctors, therapists, machines that beep and whir, and none of it's brought that spark back to Isla's eyes. Not until today. Not until a kid with nothing but a notebook and some nerve looked him in the eye and promised the impossible. Maybe Zeke's a fool. Maybe he's a liar. But for the first time in a year, Jonathan feels something dangerous stirring in his gut hope. He shakes his head, muttering to himself, "Goddamn kid," and heads downstairs. The house too quiet, too still. Back on the sidewalk, Zeke packs up his notebook, slinging his bag over his shoulder. The hospital's lights glow against the darkening sky, and the wind carries the faint strum of a guitar from somewhere down the street. He starts walking toward the shelter, his sneakers scuffing the pavement, his mind on Saturday. He's got 3 days to figure out how to keep his promise. 3 days to prove he's not just some kid with a dream too big for his taped-up shoes. The morning air in Overton Park is crisp, the kind of chilly that makes you shove your hands deeper into your pockets. It's Saturday, just past noon, and the park's waking up slow, a couple of joggers huffing along the trails, a dog barking at a squirrel, the faint thump of a basketball on the cracked court nearby. The oak trees stand tall, their leaves a mix of green and gold, rustling in a breeze that carries the smoky tang of a barbecue joint down the street. No blues music today, just the low hum of Memphis traffic and the occasional honk from Beale Street. On a patchy stretch of grass near the biggest oak, Zeke Carter's already set up shop, his faded yoga mats spread out, a little lopsided, and his gym bags open, spilling its usual contents: a tennis ball, a jar of cocoa butter, a plastic container of rice, still warm from the shelter's microwave. His duct-taped sneaker scuffs the dirt as he kneels, arranging everything just so, his red beanie tugged low over his ears. At 9, Zeke's small, wiry, but there's a steadiness to him, like he's been carrying heavier things than his beat-up notebook, which lies open beside him, pages fluttering in the wind. Across the park, Jonathan Reeves pulls his SUV into a spot by the playground, the engine cutting off with a soft thud. He's 48, his tailored coat swapped for a fleece jacket, but the bags under his eyes are still there, deeper after a week of sleepless nights. He's been replaying that kid's voice, "I can help her walk," and kicking himself for even showing up. In the back seat, Isla's bundled in a scarf and her pink blanket, her brown curls peeking out from a knit hat. She's 6, her eyes bright with a mix of nerves and excitement, clutching a small notebook of her own, one she's been doodling in since the hospital. Jonathan unbuckles her, lifting her into her wheelchair, his movements careful but tense. "You sure about this, baby?" he asks, his voice gruff. Isla nods, her smile small but real. "Zeke said he'd be here. He promised." "Yeah, well, promises don't mean much," Jonathan mutters, pushing her chair toward the oak, but his gut's churning, that dangerous flicker of hope from last week still burning, no matter how hard he tries to snuff it out. Zeke looks up as they approach, his face breaking into a grin. "Yo, Isla. You made it." He stands, brushing dirt off his jeans, looking like a superstar with that hat. Isla giggles, her cheeks flushing. "It's my favorite. Blue, like the river." "Solid choice," Zeke says, then nods at Jonathan. "Mr. Reeves, glad you didn't bail." Jonathan grunts, parking Isla's chair by the mat. "Don't get cocky, kid. I'm here for her, not you." "Fair enough," Zeke says, unfazed, kneeling back down. He glances at Isla, his voice softening. "We're gonna start easy today. All right. Just wake your legs up a bit. Nothing crazy." Isla nods, her fingers tightening on her notebook. "Okay." Jonathan crosses his arms, his eyes darting between Zeke and Isla. The park's quiet, no crowd today, just a couple of moms watching their kids on the swings and an old guy feeding pigeons. But Jonathan feels exposed, like he's betting everything on a kid who looks like he slept in a bus station. He's about to say something when a woman approaches, her steps clipped, her lab coat flapping in the breeze. Dr. Elena Torres, 47, saint, Jude's top physical therapist, has a clipboard under her arm and a frown that could curdle milk. Her dark hair's pulled back tight, and her eyes lock on Zeke like he's a problem she needs to solve. "Jonathan," she says, her voice sharp. "What's this I hear about some kid working with Isla?" Jonathan stiffens, caught off guard. "Elena, it's just a trial. He says he can help." Torres raises an eyebrow, glancing at Zeke, who's ignoring her, focused on placing the warm rice pack on Isla's thighs. "This child. You're letting a child play therapist." "He's not playing," Jonathan says, but his voice wavers, doubt creeping in. Clara vouched for him, said his mom was legit. Torres scoffs, her pen tapping her clipboard. Clara's a nurse, not a doctor. This is reckless. "John, Isla's condition is delicate. You can't just let some street kid experiment on her." Zeke's hands pause, just for a second. But he doesn't look up. "I ain't experimenting," he says, his voice low, steady. "I'm helping. You want to watch? Go ahead." Torres blinks, thrown by his nerve. "You've got no credentials, no training. You're putting her at risk." "Risk," Zeke says, finally meeting her eyes. She's been sitting in that chair for a year. What's riskier than giving up? Jonathan's jaw tightens, his hands clenching. "Enough," he snaps. "Elena, back off. Kid, get to work or we're done." Torres steps back, her lips pursed. But she doesn't leave, her eyes boring into Zeke. He ignores her, turning to Isla. "All right. Superstar," he says, his voice soft again. "We're gonna move your legs a little, like we're dancing." "Yeah. You tell me if anything feels weird." Isla nods, her eyes flicking to her dad, then back to Zeke. He starts slow, lifting one leg, rotating it gently, his fingers pressing lightly on her ankle. The rice pack's warmth seeps through her blanket, and she relaxes, her shoulders loosening. Jonathan watches, his arms still crossed, but his posture shifts. Just a fraction, like he's holding his breath. "Feel anything?" Zeke asks, tapping her knee with his knuckle. Isla shakes her head. "Not yet." "That's cool," Zeke says, unfazed. "Takes time. Your legs are just sleeping. Not gone." He keeps going, switching to the other leg, his movements precise, like he's following a script only he can see. Isla starts talking, her voice brighter. "Do you like music?" "Zeke, I used to play guitar, blues, like B.B. King." Zeke grins, his eyes lighting up. "B.B. King, girl. You got taste. My mom used to blast his stuff while she worked. Said it kept her patience loose." "Really?" Isla says, her smile growing. "What's your favorite song?" "The thrill is gone," Zeke says, not missing a beat. Gets me right here. He taps his chest, then glances at her. You, Lucille, Isla says, giggling. It's his guitar's name. Jonathan's lips twitch, almost a smile, but he catches himself, his eyes still on Zeke's hands. Torres scribbles something on her clipboard, her frown deepening. But she's quiet now, watching. Zeke sets Isla's leg down, grabbing the tennis ball from his bag. All right, we're gonna try something, he says. I'm gonna roll this under your foot. Tell me if you feel it, even a little. He slides the ball under her arch, pressing gently, his eyes on her face. Isla's brow furrows, then her eyes widen. Wait, she says, her voice a whisper. It's like pressure. Not a lot, but something. Zeke nods, his grin small but real. That's your foot talking. Isla, it's waking up. Jonathan steps closer, his voice sharp. You serious? She felt that. Yep, Zeke says, still rolling the ball. It's small, but it's a start. Jonathan's eyes flick to Isla, who's beaming, her notebook forgotten in her lap. He rubs the back of his neck, his skepticism cracking, just a little. Torres clears her throat, her voice cold. That could be a reflex, not progress. Don't get her hopes up. Zeke doesn't look at her, his focus on Isla. Hopes are what keep us going, he says, his voice low. Ain't that right? Isla. Yeah, she says, her voice stronger now. I want to try again. Jonathan's throat tightens, his eyes burning. He's heard Isla say a lot of things this past year. I'm tired. It hurts. Why me but not this? Not I want to try. He looks at Zeke, really looks at him. The kid with the taped up shoe and the nerve to talk back to a doctor. Keep going, he says, his voice rough. But you better know what you're doing. I do, Zeke says, his eyes steady, and gets back to work. As the session winds down, Zeke shows Jonathan how to massage Isla's calves, his hands guiding the older man's. Light pressure, like you're kneading dough, he says. Helps the blood flow. Jonathan follows. Awkward at first, his hands too stiff. Didn't know I signed up for a damn PT course, he mutters. But there's no bite in it. Zeke chuckles, the sound low, warm. You're doing all right. Mr. Reeves. Isla watches them, her smile soft, her eyes flicking to her notebook. Zeke, she says, hesitant. Can I show you something? Sure thing, he says, sitting back on his heels. She opens her notebook, revealing a pencil sketch of a guitar, wobbly, but clear. I drew this for you, 'cause you like blues. Zeke takes it, his eyes softening. Damn. Isla. This is legit. You're an artist. Her cheeks flush, and Jonathan's chest aches, the kind of ache that's half pain, half hope. Torres is still there, her clipboard clutched tight, but she's silent. Her eyes narrower now, like she's seeing something she didn't expect. As they pack up, Jonathan pulls a sandwich from his bag, ham and cheese, wrapped in foil, and sets it by Zeke's gym bag. Don't argue, he says, his voice gruff. Just eat it. Zeke hesitates, then nods. Thanks, man. Jonathan pushes Isla's chair toward the SUV, his mind a mess. He's still not sold on this kid. But that pressure Isla felt, that smile, it's more than he's seen in months. He glances back, catching Zeke flipping through his notebook, pausing on a page with handwriting that's not his own. Jonathan's about to ask, but Isla's voice cuts through. Can we come back tomorrow? Daddy, we'll see, he says, but his voice is softer, his resolve slipping. Back at the park. Zeke's alone now. The moms and pigeons gone. The air colder as the sun dips low. He opens his notebook to his mom's notes. Patience wakes the body. Trust wakes the heart. He runs his thumb over the words, his jaw tight. He's thinking about Isla, the way her laugh sounded like his mom's old records, warm and alive. But then a shadow falls over the mat. Marcus M.J. Johnson stands there, his hoodie zipped, his eyes hard. You still messing with that rich girl, he says, kicking a pebble. Told you, Zeke. You're gonna crash and burn. Zeke shuts the notebook, his voice low. I ain't crashing. MJ. She felt something today. Her foot. Marcus snorts, crouching down. You think that changes anything? Her dad's gonna ditch you when he figures out you're just a kid with a dead mom's book. Zeke's eyes flash, but he keeps his voice steady. Get out of here. Man, I got work to do. Marcus stands, his smirk fading. Work? You're digging your own grave. Little man, I'm hitting a job tonight. Real money. You should come. Zeke doesn't answer, his hands clenched. Marcus walks off, his sneakers crunching on the gravel, leaving Zeke alone with the oak trees and the weight of his mom's words. He slings his bag over his shoulder, the sandwich heavy in his pocket, and heads for the shelter. Tomorrow's another day. Another chance to prove he's more than a kid with a notebook and a dream too big for his taped-up shoes. Rain falls in a steady drizzle over Overton Park, turning the grass to mud and the basketball court to a slick, empty slab. It's a Sunday morning in Memphis. 2025, the air heavy with the smell of wet earth and the faint grease of a BBQ truck idling nearby. Its awning sagging under the downpour. The oak trees loom like silent giants, their leaves drooping, dripping water onto the faded yoga mat where Zeke Carter kneels, his red beanie soaked dark. At 9, he's a small figure against the gray sky, his duct-taped sneakers sinking into the mud, his gym bag zipped tight to keep the rain out, his notebooks tucked inside his jacket, safe from the wet. But his hands are busy, adjusting a warm rice pack on Isla Reeves's thighs. The park's deserted, no joggers, no kids, just the patter of rain and the distant rumble of traffic on Poplar Avenue. Isla, 6, sits in her wheelchair, her pink blanket draped over her legs, a hood pulled tight over her brown curls. Her face is pale, her eyes red-rimmed, like she's been crying all night. She's clutching her notebook, but it's closed, her fingers digging into the cover. Jonathan Reeves stands behind her, his fleece jacket soaked, his face a mask of frustration and guilt. At 48, he's a man unraveling, the hope from last week's session replaced by a gnawing dread. Isla hasn't spoken much since yesterday, when she overheard him arguing with Dr. Elena Torres outside the hospital. Torres's words, she may never walk again. John, you need to prepare her hit Isla like a brick. And now she's shutting down, her spark gone. Zeke looks up, his eyes catching Isla's. "Yo, Isla," he says, his Memphis drawl soft. "Careful. We're just gonna stretch today. All right? Keep those legs loose." Isla shakes her head, her voice barely audible over the rain. "I don't want to do it. Zeke, it's pointless." Jonathan's jaw tightens, his hands gripping the wheelchair's handles. "Come on, baby. You gotta try. You felt something last week." "No," Isla snaps, her voice breaking. "I heard you and the doctor. She said I won't walk. I'm done." She crosses her arms, tears spilling down her cheeks, mixing with the rain. Zeke's hands pause, his shoulders slumping. He glances at Jonathan, who looks away, his face flushed with shame. "Isla," Zeke says, leaning closer, his voice steady despite the knot in his chest. "I know you're scared. I get it. I was scared when my mom got sick, when I couldn't do nothing to help her." Isla's eyes flick to him, her anger softening. Just a fraction. What happened to her? Zeke hesitates, his fingers tracing the edge of the rice pack. She passed a year ago. Had cancer, and the hospital. He stops, his voice catching, then pushes on. "Point is, I sat there feeling like you do now, like nothing mattered. But she told me to keep going, to help people, no matter how bad it got. You can't stop. Isla, not now." Isla's lip trembles, but she doesn't answer, her eyes dropping to her lap. Jonathan clears his throat, his voice rough. "Kid, maybe we should call it a day. She's not in the mood." Zeke nods, but his eyes stay on Isla. "You're allowed to be mad," he says, "but don't give up on me." "All right, I ain't giving up on you." She doesn't respond, just pulls her hood lower, shutting him out. Zeke starts packing up, his movements slow, like he's carrying more than just his bag. Jonathan pushes Isla's chair toward the SUV, his steps heavy, the rain soaking through his jacket. He's halfway there when a figure steps out from under a tree, his hoodie dark with water. Marcus M.J. Johnson, 15, lanky and pissed, plants himself in front of Jonathan, his chipped tooth glinting as he sneers. "Yo, rich man," he says, his voice loud, cutting through the rain. "You still letting my boy Zeke play doctor? You know he's just a kid, right?" Jonathan stops, his eyes narrowing. "Get out of my way, punk." Marcus doesn't budge, his hands balled into fists. "Nah, you need to hear this. Zeke's mom. She died 'cause your fancy hospital wouldn't treat her. No insurance, no care. And now you got him out here, risking his neck for your kid. You're using him." Zeke's head snaps up, his face paling. "MJ, shut up," he yells, scrambling to his feet, mud splashing his jeans. "That ain't his fault," Jonathan's frozen, the words hitting like a punch. "What the hell's he talking about?" "Kid," he asks, his voice low, dangerous. Marcus laughs, bitter. "Tell him, Zeke. Tell him how your mom begged for help, and they let her rot. You think this guy gives a damn about you? He's just waiting for you to screw up." Zeke's shaking now, his hands clenched, rain dripping off his beanie. "I said shut up, MJ." His voice cracks, raw, like something's breaking inside him. Jonathan turns to Zeke, his eyes hard. Is that true? About your mom? Zeke's mouth opens, but no words come. His chest heaves, his eyes burning with a mix of shame and fury. He grabs his bag, slinging it over his shoulder, and bolts, his sneakers slipping in the mud as he runs toward the park's edge. Zeke Isla calls, her voice sharp, desperate. But he doesn't stop, disappearing into the rain. Jonathan stands there, rain streaming down his face, Marcus's words echoing in his head. He looks at Isla, her eyes wide, tears fresh. "Daddy, go get him," she whispers. Marcus snorts, walking off. "Told you he'd crash," he mutters, fading into the gray. Jonathan curses under his breath, pushing Isla's chair to the SUV. He buckles her in, his hands shaking. "Stay here," he says, grabbing an umbrella. "I'm gonna find him." The Mississippi River churns under the rain, its surface a muddy swirl of brown and gray. Zeke sits on a concrete bench by the Riverwalk, a mile from the park, his jacket soaked through, his beanie in his hands. The city's skyline looms across the water, the Pyramid Arena glowing faintly through the haze, his gym bags at his feet, his notebook open on his lap, the pages damp but intact. He's staring at his mom's handwriting. The body remembers, but the heart decides, his thumb smudging the ink. The rain's lighter now, more mist than downpour, but it's still cold, the kind that settles in your bones. He doesn't know why he ran. Marcus's words cut deeper than they should have, ripping open a wound he thought he'd stitched shut. His mom, Monique, was everything laughing as she taught him to roll a tennis ball under a patient's foot, singing BB, King while she cooked, promising they'd get a real house someday. But cancer came fast, and the hospital turned her away when the bills piled up. Zeke was 8, sitting in a waiting room, watching her fade. He'd promised her he'd keep helping people, like she did. But now he's just a kid with a notebook, failing Isla, failing himself. Footsteps crunch on the wet gravel behind him. Jonathan appears, his umbrella useless, his fleece jacket clinging to his shoulders. He's out of breath, his face a mix of anger and something softer. "Damn it, kid," he says, stopping a few feet away. "You trying to give me a heart attack?" Zeke doesn't look up, his voice flat. "Go home, Mr. Reeves." Jonathan steps closer, his voice sharper. "Not till you tell me what that punk was talking about. Your mom, what happened?" Zeke's jaw tightens, his fingers gripping the notebook. "It's true," he says, his voice barely above the river's churn. "She got sick. Cancer. Hospital wouldn't help, 'cause we couldn't pay. She died, and I couldn't do nothing." He looks up, his eyes wet. Not from the rain. That what you want to hear. Jonathan's face softens, his anger draining. He sits on the bench, leaving a foot of space between them, the umbrella dropping to the ground. "Jesus. Kid," he says, his voice low. "I didn't know." "Yeah. Well, now you do." Zeke snaps, then softer. "It ain't your fault. It's just MJ shouldn't have said that. Not in front of Isla." Jonathan rubs his face, the rain masking the tightness in his eyes. "Isla's the one who sent me after you. She's worried sick." Zeke's head snaps up, surprise flickering across his face. "She is, yeah," Jonathan says, his voice rough. She's back there crying, thinking you're gone for good. You got her believing in you. Kid. Don't break that. Zeke's throat bobs, his hands clenching the notebook. He looks at the river, the water moving slow, relentless. I don't know if I can do this, he says, his voice small. What if I'm just pretending? What if I mess her up? Jonathan leans forward, his elbows on his knees. You're not pretending, he says, his voice firm. I saw her last week. Zeke, she felt something. She smiled. That's not nothing. Zeke's eyes dropped to the notebook, his mom's words blurring. She was scared today, he says. Heard you and that doctor. Thinks she's stuck forever. Jonathan winces, his voice heavy. That's on me. I should have been more careful. But you got through to her. Kid. You made her want to try again. Zeke's quiet, the rain pattering on his jacket. He thinks about Isla's drawing, the guitar she sketched for him, the way her laugh sounded like hope. He thinks about his mom, telling him to keep going, no matter what. He shuts the notebook, his jaw set. All right, he says, standing, slinging his bag over his shoulder. Let's go back. Jonathan nods, a ghost of a smile on his lips. That's the spirit. Kid. Back at Overton Park, the rain stopped, the clouds parting to let a sliver of sun through. Isla's in the SUV, her hood off, her eyes searching the park. When she sees Zeke, her face lights up. Tears forgotten. Zeke, she calls, waving as Jonathan pushes her chair toward the mat. Zeke kneels in front of her, his voice soft. Sorry I ran off. Superstar. Won't happen again. Isla's lip trembles, but she smiles. You promise. Promise, Zeke says, holding up a pinky. She hooks hers around it. Giggling, Jonathan watches, his chest aching. He's still not sure about this kid. But the way Isla's looking at him, the way Zeke's eyes steady her, it's more than he's seen from any doctor. All right, he says, his voice gruff. Let's do this, but no more running. You hear me? Zeke nods, his grin small but real. No more running. They start again, Zeke guiding Isla's legs through slow stretches, the mat slick with mud but steady under them. Jonathan joins in, his hands less awkward now, following Zeke's lead. The park's still empty, but the air feels lighter, like the rain washed something away. Zeke's notebook stays in his bag, but his mom's words echo in his head, pushing him forward. He's not sure what's next, but he's here, and that's enough for now. The sun beats down on Overton Park, turning the grass a bright, stubborn green despite the Memphis heat. It's a Sunday afternoon in 2025 and the park's alive, buzzing like a street festival. Kids chase each other near the playground, their sneakers kicking up dust, while a boombox by the basketball court blasts a Muddy Waters tune, the blues riff cutting through the chatter. The air smells like charcoal from a grill someone set up, sizzling with burgers and ribs, and a food truck down the path slings sweet tea and cornbread. The old oak trees shade a growing crowd, maybe 40 people now gathered around a cluster of yoga mats, spread out in a rough circle. At the center is Zeke Carter, 9 years old, his red beanie swapped for a faded baseball cap. his duct-taped sneakers scuffing the dirt as he kneels beside a new kid, his gym bags open, the usual gear spilling out tennis ball, cocoa butter, rice packs warmed by the sun, his notebooks tucked inside his jacket, but he doesn't need it today. His hands know the moves by heart. Isla Reeves, 6, sits in her wheelchair nearby, her pink blanket folded in her lap, her brown curls bouncing as she claps for Zeke. She's brighter now, her eyes sparkling, her notebook open to a new sketch, a tree with kids playing under it. She's been feeling more in her legs lately, little twitches when Zeke rolls the tennis ball under her feet, and it's got her smiling like she used to when she plucked her guitar. Jonathan Reeves stands behind her, 48, in a polo shirt and jeans, his Rolex glinting, but his face softer, the gilt lines around his eyes easing. He's still a real estate shark. But here, he's just a dad, watching his daughter and the kid who's changing her life. Zeke's working with Tamia Green, 8, a wiry girl with braids and a gap-toothed grin, her right leg in a brace from a car accident that cracked her femur. Her parents, a young couple in t-shirts and caps, stand nearby, their arms crossed, their eyes wary but hopeful. Tamia's giggling as Zeke presses the tennis ball under her foot, her voice loud over the blues. Yo, Zeke, that tickles. Tickles means it's working, Zeke says, his Memphis drawl warm, his grin flashing. You feel anything else? Tamia. She squints, concentrating. Kinda, like a buzz. In my toes. That's your body talking, Zeke says, nodding. Keep it up, girl. Isla claps, her voice bright. You got this. Tamia Jonathan's lips twitch, almost a smile, but his eyes scan the crowd. It's Beggar every week, parents with kids in wheelchairs, folks on crutches, even a vet with a prosthetic leg watching from a bench. Words spread about the kid with the taped-up shoe who helped Isla feel her feet again. And now Overton Park's a Sunday ritual, a place where hope's starting to take root. Clara Thompson, the nurse from St. Jude, is here too, her scrubs swapped for a sundress, passing out water bottles from a cooler. She's 32, her braid loose today, her eyes proud as she watches Zeke, but there's a tightness in her jaw, like she's waiting for something to go wrong. Jonathan steps closer to Clara, his voice low. This is getting big, Clara. Too big. You sure he's okay with all this? Clara glances at Zeke, who's now showing Tamia's dad how to massage her calf. He's handling it, she says. But yeah, it's a lot. Kid's got a heart bigger than his head sometimes. Before Jonathan can reply, a woman in a blazer approaches, her heels sinking into the grass. She's in her 40s, her hair in a tight bun, a notepad in hand. Ms. Linda Harris, a social worker from Child Services, has a face that says she's seen too many sob stories to buy any of them. Mr. Reeves, she says, her voice clipped. A word. Please. Jonathan's stomach drops, but he nods. Stepping away from Isla. What's this about? Harris glances at Zeke, her eyes narrowing. I've had reports of a minor Ezekiel Carter engaging in unlicensed medical activity. He's also reportedly homeless, living in shelters. I need to know what's going on here. Jonathan's jaw tightens, his voice low. He's not doing anything wrong. He's helping kids, my daughter included. He's got no home 'cause his mom died, but he's not hurting anyone. Harris's pen scratches her notepad. Helping or not, he's practicing therapy without a license. That's illegal. And a child living unsupervised, that's a problem. I'll need to speak with him. Clara overhears. Stepping in, her voice firm. Ms. Harris. I'm Clara Thompson. St. Jude. Zeke's not practicing medicine. He's using techniques his mother taught him, basic stretches, pressure points. He's supervised here. By us. Harris raises an eyebrow. Supervised. By parents and a nurse. That's not a legal guardian. I'll be filing a report. He may need to be placed in foster care. Jonathan's hands clench, his voice rising. Foster care. You're gonna rip him away 'cause he's helping people. That's bullshit. Language. Mr. Reeves, Harris says, unfazed. This is about his safety, not your daughter's. Zeke catches the tension, his hands pausing on Tamia's leg. He stands, wiping sweat from his brow, and walks over, his eyes wary. What's going on? Mr. Reeves. Jonathan hesitates, then sighs. This lady's from Child Services. Kid. She's got questions about what you're doing. Zeke's face hardens, but his voice stays steady. I'm just helping, ma'am, like my mom did. Ain't nobody getting hurt. Harris softens, just a fraction, but her pen keeps moving. I understand. Ezekiel, but you're a minor. You need a stable home, not a park. I'll be in touch. She walks off, her heels clicking, leaving a heavy silence. Tamia's mom steps forward, her voice shaky. Is this gonna stop? 'Cause Tamia's been smiling more since she met you. Zeke. Zeke forces a grin, but his eyes are tight. Nah, we ain't stopping. Right. Tamia. Right, Tamia says, pumping her fist. But the crowd's murmuring now, uneasy. Clara pulls Zeke aside, her voice low. You okay, kid? That was heavy. Zeke shrugs, his cap shading his eyes. I'm fine. Just don't want them taking me away. Not now. Jonathan joins them, his voice gruff. They're not taking you anywhere. Zeke, I'll make some calls. Get a lawyer if I have to. Zeke looks up, surprised. You'd do that? Hell yeah. Jonathan says, his hand on Zeke's shoulder. You're not going anywhere. Isla wheels over, her voice bright. Zeke, you gotta stay. We're a team now. Zeke's throat bobs, his grin real this time. Team, huh? All right. Superstar, I'm in. The session resumes, the crowd settling. But the air's different, charged with a mix of hope and fear. Zeke works with Tamia and Isla, showing their parents how to use the rice packs, his voice steady despite the weight on his shoulders. The blues from the boombox shifts to a slower tune, B.B. Kings, the thrill is gone, and Isla hums along, her fingers tapping her notebook. As the afternoon winds down, Dr. Elena Torres appears, her lab coat gone, her hair loose for once. She's been watching from a distance, her clipboard absent, her face unreadable. She approaches Jonathan, her voice low. I was wrong about the kid, she says. He's not a doctor, but he's doing something I can't. Isla's engaging, trying. That's half the battle. Jonathan blinks, caught off guard. You're admitting you're wrong. That's a first. Torres smirks. But it's soft. Don't push it. John, I'm saying I want to work with him. Incorporate his ideas at St. Jude, if he's willing. Jonathan nods. a weight lifting. I'll talk to him. Zeke's packing up when Jonathan relays the offer. His eyes widen, his voice hesitant. For real. She wants my help. Yeah, kid, Jonathan says. You're making waves. Zeke's quiet, his fingers tracing his bag's zipper. I'll think about it, he says, his voice low. Just don't want to lose this. He gestures to the mats, the kids, the crowd. You won't, Jonathan says, his voice firm. We'll figure it out. As the crowd disperses, Marcus M.J. Johnson appears, his hoodie dry, his hands in his pockets. He's been working at a BBQ joint downtown, trying to stay clean after his blow-up with Zeke. He hangs back, watching Zeke laugh with Isla and Tamia, his face a mix of guilt and pride. He steps forward, his voice low. Yo, Zeke, I'm sorry. Man, for what I said. You're doing good here. Zeke looks at him, his eyes narrowing, then softening. Yeah. Well, don't do it again. MJ, we cool. Cool, Marcus says, a small grin breaking through. Need help with anything? Zeke tosses him a water bottle. Pass these out. Make yourself useful. Marcus catches it, chuckling, and joins Clara, handing out drinks to the kids. The park's still humming, folks planning the next Sunday, talking about a movement day to celebrate what Zeke started. Jonathan watches, his chest tight, not with guilt this time, but with something new pride, maybe, or purpose. He's already thinking about lawyers, about keeping Zeke safe, about giving him a home. Isla wheels up to Zeke, holding out her notebook. I drew us, she says, showing a sketch of two stick figures, one with a beanie, one in a wheelchair under an oak tree. That's you and me. Zeke takes it, his eyes glassy. Damn. Isla. You're gonna make me cry, he says, his voice thick. This is going in my book. She beams, and Jonathan kneels beside her, his voice soft. You're something else, baby. As they head to the SUV, a local reporter lingers by the oak, her camera ready. But Zeke shakes his head when she approaches. This ain't about me, he says, nodding at the kids. It's about them. The reporter nods, backing off, but Jonathan catches her card. We'll talk, he says, pocketing it. He's got plans now, big ones, and Zeke's at the center. Zeke sits on the bench as the park empties, his cap low, his bag at his feet. The blues fade out, replaced by the chirp of crickets as the sun dips low. He pulls out his notebook, flipping to his mom's words, help one, help many. He smiles, small and quiet, thinking about Isla's sketch, Tamia's buzz in her toes, Marcus's apology. The social worker's threat looms, but for the first time, he's not alone. He's got a team, a purpose, and a park that's starting to feel like home. Overton Park is electric under a cloudless Memphis sky, the kind of blue that makes you believe in second chances. It's a Sunday in 2025, and the park's transformed into a full-blown festival for Movement Day, a celebration of the kids and families who've turned this patch of grass into a beacon of hope. The air's thick with the smell of sizzling BBQ ribs, cornbread frying in skillets, and sweet tea sweating in plastic cups. A stage near the basketball court blasts Blues BB, King's Lucille today. its guitar riffs weaving through the laughter of kids chasing balloons and the chatter of 100+ people. The old oak trees stand like proud elders, their shade cooling a sprawl of yoga mats, folding chairs, and picnic blankets. Vendors hawk t-shirts with "Keep Moving" scrawled in bold, and a local church choir sways in the background, humming gospel. It's Memphis at its loudest, warmest, and most alive. At the heart of it all is Zeke Carter, 9 years old, his baseball cap tilted back, his duct-taped sneaker tapping to the music. He's darting between mats, checking on kids, his gym bag slung over one shoulder, spilling its usual gear tennis ball, cocoa butter, rice packs warmed by a volunteer's portable heater, his notebooks tucked inside his jacket. But he's moving on instinct now, his hands sure, his grin wide. The crowd's tripled since those early Sundays, and Zeke's the unofficial mayor, high-fiving kids, nodding at parents, his Memphis drawl carrying over the noise. "Yo, keep those toes wiggling." Jamal he calls to a boy on crutches, then spins to another mat. "Nice work. Sarah, you're killing it, Isla Reeves." 6 is front and center, her wheelchair parked on a mat, her pink blanket folded neatly beside her. Her brown curls bounce under a blue headband, and her eyes shine with a fierce, quiet pride. She's clutching a walker now, her fingers tight on the handles, her legs trembling but ready. She's been practicing with Zeke for weeks, feeling twitches, then pushes, then lifts in her feet. And today's the day she wants to show it. Jonathan Reeves, 48, kneels beside her, his jeans dusty, his face softer than it's been in years. No Rolex today, just a Keep Moving t-shirt and a look that says he's all in. He's a real estate king, but here, he's Isla's dad, Zeke's champion, and a man who's found something worth fighting for. Tamia Green, 8, is on the next mat, her braids swinging as she stretches her braced leg, her gap-toothed grin lighting up the park. Her parents, now regulars, cheer her on, their wariness gone, replaced by gratitude. Tamia's been feeling her toes curl, a small victory Zeke's been coaching her toward, and she's ready to try more. Clara Thompson, 32, weaves through the mats, her sundress bright, passing out flyers for St. Jude's new community program, one she's helped build with Zeke's ideas, her braids loose, her smile wide. But her eyes flick to the edges of the crowd, watching for trouble. The festival's a magnet, pulling in new faces, kids with braces, parents with hope, even a local reporter snapping photos for the Memphis Daily News. But not everyone's here to celebrate. Ms. Linda Harris, the social worker, stands by a picnic table, her blazer crisp, her notepad out. She's been quiet since her investigation started. But her presence is a shadow, a reminder that Zeke's future's still on the line. Jonathan's hired a lawyer, filed papers to become Zeke's legal guardian. But the process is slow, and Harris's pen hasn't stopped moving. Zeke's working with Isla, adjusting her walker, his voice steady. "All right, superstar," he says, kneeling in front of her. "We're gonna stand. Maybe take a step. You ready?" Isla nods, her breath shaky, but her eyes fierce. "I'm ready. Zeke." Jonathan's hand rests on her shoulder, his voice low. "You got this, baby. We're right here." The crowd quiets, sensing the moment. Tamia stops stretching, her eyes on Isla. The choir's hum fades, the blues riff softening. Zeke and Jonathan ease Isla up, their hands steadying her walker. Her legs tremble, her knuckles white. But she rises, standing tall for 5 seconds, then 6. The crowd holds its breath, and then Isla shifts her weight, her right foot sliding forward a small, shaky step. She wobbles, but Zeke's there, his hand light on her elbow. "That's it," he whispers. "You're doing it." The park erupts. Cheers explode. Hands clap. A kid yells, "Go!" Isla Tamia pumps her fist, shouting, "You're a rock star." Clara's eyes glisten, her flyer stack forgotten. Jonathan's frozen, his throat tight, tears spilling down his cheeks. "Holy shit," he whispers, his voice breaking. "You're walking, baby." Isla's grin is radiant, her eyes locked on Zeke. "I did it," she says, her voice trembling. "You said I could." Zeke's grin matches hers, his cap shading glassy eyes. "Told ya, superstar. You're tougher than anybody." The crowd's still cheering when Tamia calls out, "My turn." Zeke laughs, moving to her mat, helping her parents lift her. She stands, her braced legs steady, and curls her toes, a movement she couldn't do a month ago. The crowd roars again, parents hugging, kids high-fiving. The reporter's camera clicks, capturing Tamia's grin. Zeke's focus. The mat's filled with kids moving, trying, believing. Jonathan kneels beside Isla, his voice thick. "I'm so proud of you," he says, pulling her close. She hugs him back, her walker clanging, her laugh bright. Clara steps up, her voice low. "Zeke's changing lives. John. But Harris is still here. We need to settle this." Jonathan nods, his jaw set. "It's settled," he says, pulling a folder from his bag. "Lawyer got the papers through. As of yesterday. I'm Zeke's guardian." Clara's eyes widen, her smile breaking through. "For real? You adopted him?" "Damn right," Jonathan says, his voice rough but warm. "Kid's family now. They call Zeke over, and Jonathan hands him the papers, his hand on his shoulder. "You're with us. Zeke, for good. No more shelters, no more running." Zeke stares at the papers, his breath catching. "You serious? Mr. Reeves. Call me John," he says, grinning. "And yeah, I'm serious." Isla wheels closer, her voice bright. "You're my brother now." Zeke. Zeke's eyes glisten, his grin shaky. "Damn. Isla, you're gonna make me cry again." He hugs her, his cap falling off, and the crowd cheers, sensing the moment's weight. Harris approaches, her notepad closed, her face softer. "Congratulations, Ezekiel," she says. "You've got a home now, but I'll be watching. Mr. Reeves, he's still a minor." Jonathan nods, his voice firm. "He's my kid. I've got this." Harris walks away, and the festival rolls on, the blues picking up, the choir swaying, Dr. Elena Torres, in jeans and a t-shirt, joins Clara, her skepticism gone. "I'm starting a pilot program at St. Jude," she says. Zeke stretches. His way of talking to kids, it's working. "We're calling it the Carter method." Clara laughs, her eyes on Zeke. He's gonna love that. Marcus M.J. Johnson, 15, is here too. No hoodie today, just a BBQ joint apron, passing out water bottles. He's been volunteering since his apology. His chipped tooth grin back. He nudges Zeke, his voice low. "You did this, man. All of it." Zeke shrugs, his cap low. "Nah, MJ, they did." He nods at the kids, the mats, the crowd, as the sun dips. The festival winds down. Families packing up, promising to return next Sunday. The reporter's story will run tomorrow. Headlined, "Memphis Boy Moves a City." But Zeke's already refused an interview, pointing her to the kids. Jonathan watches him, his chest full, thinking about the guest room at home. Now Zeke's, with a bed, a desk, and a shelf for his notebook. The crowd thins, and Zeke, Isla, and Jonathan head to the Mississippi River, a short walk from the park. The water's calm tonight, reflecting the city's lights, the pyramid, the bridge, the glow of Beale Street. They sit on a bench, Zeke's cap off, his hair mussed. Isla's walker beside her, Jonathan's arm around them both. "Zeke," Isla says, her voice soft. "You think your mom's watching?" Zeke looks at the river, his mom's words echoing, "Help one, help many." "Yeah," he says, his voice thick. "She's watching, probably smiling." Jonathan's voice is low, steady. "She'd be proud. Kid, you changed everything." Zeke's grin is small, real. "Ain't just me, John. It's all of us." They sit in silence, the river flowing, the city humming, the blues drifting from somewhere far off. Zeke's notebook's in his bag, but he doesn't need it now. The park, the kids, the mats, they're his notes, his mom's legacy, his home. The fight's not over. More kids need help. More battles loom, but for now, he's here, with a family, a purpose, and a city that's moving, one step at a time. Hey, folks, from a kid with duct-taped shoes to the heart of a city, Zeke's story proves anyone can make a difference. What moved you most? Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, and share this to spread the hope.